Hey everyone, welcome back. Bigelow Reviews here. I am Brent Bigelow, and I have multiple reviews for you, as this is our catch-up from my months-long vacation exodus. It's a working title. We don't quite have it figured out yet. But we're back with the video, and I know it's been a while. I hope you enjoyed my 2021 reviews that I did over the last month or so while I was gone traveling. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you didn't leave me. And I'm glad you're watching this video to talk about some of the albums that came out while I was out traveling the world, apparently. So here we go. It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. That came out a while back, like I said, while I was gone traveling. I'm not the biggest Pusha T fan. I understand his importance and everything, and his relevancy when it comes to hip-hop and his relationship with Kanye. But he's not necessarily something I'm going to listen to in my free time. When it comes to Pusha T's career, he's really he's been around, been in the background. But when it comes to the album Daytona that he released back in 2018, that really put him in the spotlight. And that was a short little album, wasn't very long, but that whole thing was completely produced by Kanye West, and the two of them have an amazing relationship musically. And I do believe they're pretty much like close friends nowadays, since Kanye West is like cutting off all of his friends, including like Kid Cudi, who makes an appearance on this song. Kid Cudi came out and said that this is his last song he will ever be with Kanye West. And it's not even that good. It, in fact, is actually a lowlight on the album for me. But on Almost Dry, Kanye and Pusha are back working together. And same with Pharrell Williams. Pharrell Williams makes an appearance on this record. The two of them split time producing tracks. And actually, there's a couple tracks on here that we heard a while back, which is the Diet Coke song, which was which was the single for this project produced by Kanye West. And then the track that Pusha T and Pharrell worked on for the Nego album was also on this project. So yeah, there's a new album out, but it has like two songs on here that we already heard. So I'm not really necessarily that interested in talking about them, especially the two, because I thought they're just kind of mid to begin with. But Pusha T really leans into the cocaine talk on this record. There's a lot of coke talk. In fact, the title, It's Almost Dry, is kind of like a reference to it. I mean, some of the songs on here, he's just really sending home the message about how he's basically like the coke king, I guess. I don't know. But on the song, Let the Smoke Shine in the Coops, which is a song on here produced by Pharrell, is one of my favorites on this one. Again, one of the drug songs. Just So You Remember, produced by Kanye West, which samples 6 Day War by Colonel Bagshot. Those are two like my favorite songs of this album. The Kanye West track that he produced on here is super scary, very surreal, and then the Pharrell beat on the Coop track is just a fun banger to listen to. I'm not a big fan of Diet Coke, but it's definitely like a classic Kanye West produced track. Has like cutting up the soul samples, you know, it's things you expect from Kanye. And again, Rock and Roll with Kid Cudi and Kanye West is a terrible song, especially with the two of them like, you know, parting ways with their friendship, musically and everything, personally and everything. So it's sad to hear that, you know, they kind of cut ties. So it's such an awful song. There's another few of my favorite tracks on here. Neck and Wrist featuring Jay-Z produced, and Pharrell producing the beat and even featuring on the song is a welcome sound to my ears. I love hearing Jay-Z. He did great. Again, like I said, Just So You Remember, another one of my favorites. And then Call My Bluff is also a very enjoyable track. I know that Daytona by Pusha T is a really loved track and a very loved album by a lot of people, but I actually enjoy this one a little bit more than Daytona, and I give it a score of 76. Ivory by Omar Apollo, the second album on my list to review, is Omar's fourth album and his follow-up to his 2022 record. And that one honestly put him on the map. There's a lot of pretty good singles on there, pretty popular songs. And it's just a fun album. It's a really enjoyable R&B, soul, pop record, if that's something that you're into. For me, this album kind of hit like every box that I'm looking for. It was extremely fun, really diverse, a lot of different sounds, a lot of different styles on this project. And like I said, it was just a feel-good, enjoyable, almost has like that like really sad R&B tinge to it. But it's a fun listen to pretty much all the way through. He has just like a beautiful timbre to his voice, like just the way he sings and how just pristine everything sounds for this whole album is pretty impressive. When doing my research, I saw that he was like inspired a lot by like John Mayer, a little bit of a Neil Young influence on here, and I can really see both of those coming through, especially with a few of these songs on here. Like the song Waiting on You has this like Harvest Moon sound and feel that like Neil Young has, which is one of my favorite songs ever written. And even just the way he sings on it, it's just, his voice just sails, and it's gorgeous. Neil Young wishes he could sing as pretty as Omar Apollo can. Even Petrified has this like John Mayer thing going on with it as well. But yeah, this album gives like the full Omar Apollo experience, at least in my eyes. The R&B songs on this entire album all the way through are just beautiful and gorgeous and lush with the instrumentation. And even the Spanish track on here that he sings in Spanish, in El Olvido, beautiful. I don't know Spanish. I'm not sure what he's saying in the song, if we're being honest. But it's a beautiful song. One of my favorites. A lot of my friends are annoyed about me playing it, though. I love the song so much, I can't help but, like, I try to sing along with it. I have no idea what I'm saying. But I could just tell, like, just the way he's singing, it's just impactful to me. It's a beautiful song. The only song on here I'm not really feeling is actually the track Tamagotchi. If that was out of here, I would say this is pretty much like a perfect track list all the way through. Invincible with Daniel Caesar, an amazing song. But I really like how the style on this track kind of picked up towards the halfway point, because it kind of has this like really slow vibe, but then like this, like the drums come in like into this like energetic part. It really like just brings the vibes up a little bit, and even like the performances on here are great. Daniel Caesar, great. I can always have more of him. And then Omar Apollo, just the way he comes in and their voices work together is music to my ears. Some of my favorite songs in here, which I said there's a lot of them. We have Invincible is one of my favorite, Petrified, NL Oviedo, Evergreen, and Mr. Neighbor. They're all very, very great tracks, and Mr. Neighbor is a fantastic closer for this album. I wish I was able to have more time to give a better review, but I give this one like a solid 87. Great album. Can't wait to see what Omar Apollo does next. It's summertime. It's hot. Next one on here is Ramona Park Broke My Heart by Vince Staples. I really like Vince's self-titled album last year. That was one of my favorite ones. There's a lot of tracks on there I enjoyed. Didn't get to make a video for it, but it's fantastic. But I don't really have much to say about this one. The whole album's a vibe from front to back. It's an enjoyable listen. Some of my favorite songs on here are DJ Quick, When Sparks Fly, Lemonade, and Player Ways. Some of my favorite songs on here. When Sparks Flies is an absolute beautiful track. Love it a lot. And personally, when it comes to like Vince Staples' discography as a whole, I think the last two albums, this one and then the self-titled one, have honestly been some of his best work yet. Especially that he kind of like floats in between, like, he's not quite hip-hop, he's not quite R&B, he's not quite like indie rock. Like, he's fit somewhere in this weird landscape of where all of these genres kind of come together. And I think he's really found his like niche, his little cozy hole where all of those kind of fit together. And I think he's on his best like artistic streak yet. And that's saying something, because a lot of people love Big Fish Theory. I think the last two albums, the self-titled one and then Ramona Park, have been some really great showings for Vince Staples. I like it. This album is kind of like a low-key vibe. I like it a lot. Again, I wish I could dig into it a little bit more, but I'm going to give this one an 84. That kind of rhymed a little bit. A little? I wasn't even trying to do that. Alright, this debut album called Wet Leg by the band Wet Leg. Not crazy about this one, if we're being completely honest. The band is from Isles of Wight in England. This is their debut album, and it was extremely underwhelming and left me very disappointed. And kind of annoyed me in some parts, honestly. The vocals in here kind of get annoying. But when it comes to like female nasally vocals, it's not really good. It gets to me really quickly. Even with like Oliver Tree, how his vocals can get super nasally and kind of like, just, you know, sounds like it's like somebody stabbing a pencil in my ear. Not really a big fan of that at all. But I've seen this album everywhere. It was in Barnes and Noble when I went in there the one day. They're trying to sell it to me. I saw it kind of on all over people's stories, and I was like, I guess I have to listen to it. It wasn't not really feeling that one. But it's just mid garage rock, if you ask me. It's okay. But they kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Hopefully the next thing that they release is a little bit better, because there are moments on here where things are good. A lot of the guitar tones are interesting, and they're very much like that psychedelic garage rock that like bands that are like some of my favorites, like Naked Giants, for example, that are one of my favorite bands. These two groups kind of like share the same circle. So maybe if they kind of like tweak their sound a little bit, that could be better. But just for me personally, not really feeling it. And I gave the album about like a 36. Next album on here is Bronco by Orville Peck. Super excited about this one when it came out. His debut album just had everybody going crazy over it. And then even, for being honest, it wasn't that great. His vocals are extremely unique. He's like a a Frank Sinatra crooner of country music. Oh, and matter of fact, just to throw another crazy layer at it, he's also gay. So the people who love country music don't necessarily like this guy. He's just an extremely interesting voice, and I love everything he's doing. And this album easily got better than his previous. So I really like this album a lot by Orville Peck, and I'm excited to see what he does next. But yeah, basically Orville Peck is like the anti-country musician, if that makes any sense. But he has like a mask on, he has all this fringe on, a cowboy hat. He always wears the mask everywhere I've seen him ever, and just like like I said, he's like the anti-country music artist that happens to make country music. I love it. Love the dynamic. But when it comes to this album, other than like his sound evolving, which for the absolute better, because he really does extend his vocal prowess on this one, hitting some higher notes, getting some control in his lower register that he sings in often. But like the first 6 songs of this entire album, I think, are really great songs. But some of my favorite ones on here are Daytona Sand, The Curse of the Blackened Eye, and Out of Time. But again, please go listen to Lafayette, Cry Baby Cry, and Irish Rose. Those are all great songs. But the other half of the album kind of left me wanting some more. It lacks some of the nuances of the other songs, and I just enjoyed the first half of this album dramatically more than the second half. I give Orville Peck's Bronco a score of 70. Like I said, it's an absolute improvement from his last album, but there's a few things that could have been tweaked on the second one, especially for the second half of the album. The first half, nailed it. Alright, another really exciting one that I was shocked to see because they always non-stop produce music is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard have I believe their second album of 2022 out and about, and that is Omium Gatherum. But this is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's 19th studio album. They consistently produce music. One of the most prolific bands of like all time. Don't know when to stop, but everything they put out is constantly good. And the thing is, all their albums are like insanely drastically different sounding from the other. You have Invade the Rat's Nest, which is like an 80s thrash metal album about, going to Earth because Earth's dying, but then the shit that you're on is invaded by rats, and just the whole story of that album is fantastic. Yeah, Fishing for Fishies, which is like a folk album that they also wrote. But then they have all these crazy psychedelic albums that they do. They're just one of the coolest bands out there right now. But this is the band's first album they've been able to produce together in studio since COVID, which is extremely exciting. And then you could tell just the energy of everybody together just brought this cool creative vibe where they just kind of like jammed out and for like a while, and even for the first track, which is almost 20 minutes long. The only issue I really have with this album is it's an hour and 20 minutes, but it's nice to hear everybody come back together for the project. But this album has literally everything. It has some synth pop, again it has some 80s metal thrash like in Invade the Rat's Nest like I was talking about. They even have some like rap tracks on here that sound like there's something from like the Beastie Boys. It's just a really cool album. If you haven't checked them out, please give them a listen. I love King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. You have the 20-minute intro track, which is the Dripping Tap. You have Gaia, which is an awesome song. You have Sadie Sorceress, which is like the rap song. There's a couple rap tracks on here. And then Predator X, which is a thrash one. One of my favorite bands. They dropped another album. It's just as great. I give this one about a 78. Please check it out. Listen to the band if you've never listened to them. Please do yourself a favor. Another one I got for you guys is "Come Home, the Kids Miss You" by Jack Harlow. This was also another underwhelming project from the year. Boring as hell. It's like eating white bread. It's not a very great album, especially with all the press that Jack Harlow gets nowadays. It's not very good. It's like if Drake took a Dramamine and hopped in the studio. It's like half alive, kind of dying. It's just a really bad copycat version of Drake, if I'm being brutally honest about it. Some of the bars that he drops on in this album aren't very good. There's a lot of writers on a lot of these songs, so the fact that this even got that far, where these, like, the things that he's saying are so terrible and so, like, they're not even, like, witty. There's one line talking about, like, he's like, my grandpa doesn't want to see $100,000, so I'm not going to pull out $100,000. Like, whoa, what a bar, man. That's so enlightening. Like, it's just things like that happen all the way through. This album's just not good. Even the really big features that Jack Harlow has on here. Like, he has Lil Wayne on here. His part was boring. You have Pharrell on here. His beat wasn't even that good. It was kind of whack, honestly. And then even Justin Timberlake was on here. Justin Timberlake was like non-existent on his song. The song with Drake was like the best part of the whole album because in the two of them, Drake could just absolutely outshine him. But yeah, not really impressed by this album. I give Jack Harlow's other album, whatever this is called, a 20. Not too crazy about it. On to the next one. This album here is actually a surprisingly good one. I didn't even see this coming. I threw this on just to see. But it's Full Court Press by Wiz Khalifa, Big Crit, Smoke DZA, and Girl Talk. I know some of these guys, Wiz Khalifa, obviously, Girl Talk, kind of new to me. But this album was really good. Like, it was an extremely enjoyable album all the way through. Not really a song worth skipping. Yeah, but the whole album has, like, it's like a high-energy smoke cess album. Every song's an upper. It has this early 2010s vibe to it with Wiz Khalifa, just sounding like prime Wiz Khalifa back in the day. And just, like, the throwback energy all the way through. It's really nice. Like, for some reason, just kind of like, I was listening to some of these songs, like, I feel like I'm back in, like, high school or something. Like, just the way they constructed the tracks together. But yeah, shout out to Girl Talk on this one for doing a lot of the production. But yeah, this, like I said, this album's no fluff. It's like 30 minutes long, 10 tracks, and every one pretty much hits. Some of my favorite songs right here are Mind Blown, Season. Ready for Love is a beautiful song. The sample on it, top notch, love it. Fly the Coop is awesome. And then Every Day featuring Currency, which I reviewed one of his albums earlier this year. So you can check that out if you like to. But yeah, this is a really great album. I thought it was pretty decent. Came out of nowhere. And I gave it a 82. And then last one before we get out of here is the album We by Arcade Fire. Our Arcade Fire had like a pretty amazing discography early on in their career, their first 3 albums. But this one's just not quite it. It's a little too deep for like a couple listens I gave it. Hard for me to actually, for being honest, it's hard for me to develop an opinion on it. But I'm willing to listen to it again. But this whole album has this like big, grand, lush orchestration to it with like violins, string instruments. But the whole album kind of has this like disconnecting from the internet, unsubscribe from things, and just kind of being your own person. But the whole album has this like really sober, sad feeling to it. It's like absolutely a slow burn. It feels like you're at a funeral, pun intended. But as of right now, I give this album like a 55. I don't know how I want to feel about it because there's some songs on here I do enjoy, like the track "The Lightning Part 2," which has this like classic rockish version of Arcade Fire that you're used to listening to. And like I said, when it just comes to messaging on here, I feel like I haven't quite grasped it. And I'm willing to listen to this album a few more times. But as of right now, I give it a 55. But what do you think? What are your scores of all the albums I talked about today? Put your comments down in the comment section below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Biggie out.